Welcome to this in-depth Bible study on James 2 verse 14 to 26, where we unpack the famous and sometimes controversial statement, "Faith without works is dead." For the next 2 hours, we will carefully examine this passage, compare it with the broader teaching of Scripture, and discover how it applies to our daily walk with Christ. Part 1. The question of James, verses 14 to 17. James begins with a challenge. "What good is it, my brothers, if a man claims to have faith but has no deeds? Can such faith save him?" He gives a practical example. If someone is hungry and you simply say, "Go in peace, be warmed and filled," without providing food, your faith is meaningless. Here James stresses that faith is not just belief, it must move us to action. True faith expresses itself in love. Part 2. Faith that works through love. Paul, in Galatians 5 verse 6 says, "The only thing that counts is faith working through love." This is not a contradiction to James, but a complement. Paul emphasizes that we are saved by grace through faith, apart from works. Ephesians 2 verse 8 to 9. James emphasizes that the faith which saves never stands alone, it is always accompanied by works as its evidence. Part 3. The example of Abraham verses 21 to 24. James points to Abraham as an example. Was not our ancestor Abraham considered righteous for what he did when he offered his son Isaac on the altar? Abraham's faith was credited to him as righteousness. Genesis 15 verse 6. But it was proven genuine by his obedience in Genesis 22. James shows us that faith and works are not enemies, they are partners. Faith is the root, works are the fruit. Part 4. The example of Rahab, verse 25. James also mentions Rahab, a Gentile woman, who hid the Israelite spies in Jericho. Joshua 2. Her actions demonstrated that she truly believed in the God of Israel. This teaches us that living faith is not just for patriarchs like Abraham, but for ordinary people who trust God enough to act courageously. Part 5. Faith without works is dead, verse 26. James concludes, "As the body without the spirit is dead, so faith without works is dead." A body without a spirit may appear like a body, but it has no life. Similarly, faith without works may look like belief on the surface, but it is lifeless and powerless. Genuine faith breathes life into actions, and actions confirm the presence of living faith. Part 6. Paul and James. Harmony, not conflict. Some argue that James contradicts Paul, but in reality, Paul speaks of the basis of salvation, faith alone, while James speaks of the evidence of salvation, faith that works. Paul writes against legalism, James against hypocrisy. Together, they give us the full picture. We are justified before God by faith, and justified before people by works. Part 7. The fruit of true faith in the Christian life. Living faith transforms how we love others, give, forgive, and serve. Jesus himself said in Matthew 7 verse 16, "You will know them by their fruits." Works do not save us, but they reveal that salvation has taken root in us. Part 8. Practical applications, extended teaching for depth. Helping the needy, living faith meets practical needs. James 1 verse 27. Obedience in trials. Faith proves itself by steadfast obedience, even when it costs something. Fruit of the Spirit. True faith manifests as love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, and self-control. Galatians 5 verse 22 to 23. Daily surrender. Faith is trust in action, whether in prayer, forgiveness, giving, or worship. Extended reflections. Dead faith versus living faith. Exploring different examples from Scripture where people claimed belief but lacked obedience. For example, Pharisees, King Saul. The relationship of grace and works. Why works are not the root of salvation but the inevitable fruit. Historical perspectives. How Martin Luther struggled with James, but later acknowledged its value. Faith in action today. Testimonies of how believers throughout history, like William Wilberforce, Mother Teresa, and countless missionaries demonstrated faith through deeds. Challenge to the church. How this passage calls modern Christians to live out their faith in communities, workplaces, and families. Closing. As we conclude this study, we see that James' words are not a contradiction to the gospel, but a call to live out the gospel. Faith without works is not real faith. True faith moves mountains, but it also moves hearts to love, serve, and obey. The question we must ask ourselves is my faith alive and active?